Hello, and thank you for listening to today's episode of JATCast, the official podcast of the Journal of Athletic Training. I'm your host, Luke Donovan. For this second episode of the month, I will discuss the findings of an article from the most recent issue of JAT titled Automated Landing Error Scoring System Performance and the Risk of Bone Stress Injury in Military Trainees. Authored by Dr. Timothy Eckard and colleagues from Western Carolina University, Pro-Lions Surgery, the United States Military Academy at West Point, Keller Army Hospital, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital, the University of Connecticut, and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. As a reminder, the article discussed today can be found on the JAT website, natajournals.org. And please remember that all content from JAT is open access to all readers, thanks to the funding from the National Athletic Trainers Association. First step, surveying the scene. Bone stress injuries, or BSIs, are quite common and potentially serious among military service members. Approximately 19 in every 1,000 male and 80 in every 1,000 female recruits will develop a BSI during basic training. Neuromuscular control and biomechanics play an important role in the development of these injuries, as several kinematic and kinetic variables have been identified as risk factors. The Landing Error Scorer System, known as the LESS, is a biomechanical assessment tool that quantifies movement quality. The original version of the LESS contains 17 items to be manually scored. A study from 2014 found that the LESS 17 can be used to examine the risk of BSIs in military service members. Despite the positive findings, the clinical implementation of the original LESS within large organizations, such as the military, may be prohibited due to time constraints. The manual version of the LESS takes approximately 7 minutes to administer and score per person. Since this study, a 22-item version of the LESS has been created to enhance the ability of the test to detect movement patterns associated with ACL injury. Although the inclusion of the 5 new items were geared towards assessing ACL injury risk, 4 of the new criteria, being asymmetrical timing, asymmetrical heel-to-toe or toe-to-heel landing, trunk flexion, and asymmetrical loading, are also related to vertical ground reaction forces, which is a reported risk factor for BSI. In addition to the new criteria, the scoring of the LESS 22 has been automated using a depth camera and a markerless motion capture system. This automation has reduced the collection and scoring time down to 3 minutes per person. Given the additional new criteria and the automated process, the LESS 22 has the potential to be a valuable tool to assess BSI risk among military personnel. Therefore, the purpose of the study was to determine the association between performance on the automated LESS 22 and prospective BSI incidents in a military training population. The study also sought to examine whether individual criteria on the LESS 22 were associated with the incidence of BSI. Almost 2,000 first-year cadets at the U.S. Military Academy completed the study in its entirety. Participants completed 3 trials of the LESS jump landing task. To complete the LESS, participants stood on a 30-centimeter box and jumped forward to a distance half their height away. Upon landing, the individual was to immediately rebound for a maximum vertical jump. Participants are not provided any feedback on their landing technique unless they were doing the task incorrectly. The movement pattern during the initial landing is what is scored. After completing the tasks, participants had their injury history monitored for the entire first academic year, which is 368 days at the U.S. Military Academy. Here are the results. A total of 54 lower extremity BSIs occurred in 42 cadets during the study period, resulting in an overall incident rate of 0.07 BSI per 1,000 person days. The mean time to injury was 105 days, with a median of 43 days. The average LESS 22 score was 5.22. The authors found that the total LESS 22 score was significantly associated with the BSI incidence, where each additional LESS 22 item documented at baseline was associated with a 6% increase in the incidence rate of BSI over the course of the first academic year. In addition to the total score, 6 individual criteria were significantly associated with the incidence rate of BSI. The items were trunk flexion at initial contact, excessive trunk flexion displacement, ankle plantar flexion angle at initial contact, asymmetric foot contact, knee wobble, and overall impression. Overall, given the association with bone stress injuries among military cadets, and when considering the low cost and ease to implement, the automated LES 22 may have the potential to be a scalable solution for screening military training populations for risk of bone stress injuries. The results of the study may also uncover injury risk reduction strategies that can be implemented in the event an individual is screened for being at a heightened risk of injury. Well, that's it for today's JATcast. Please remember to rate and subscribe to the podcast, which is available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and Stitcher. You can find out more information about upcoming podcasts and other JAT events on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts at JAT_NATA. Thank you for listening and keep a lookout for next month's JATcast.